Donald Trump has just been hit by a blow no one in Washington expected, and it didn't come from a politician or a foreign adversary, it came from an economist. Mark Carney, the former central banker known for his calm and calculated demeanor, has triggered a move so strategic and surprising that it's being described in Europe as the potential beginning of the end for U.S. financial supremacy. Carney has quietly led a multi-nation, multi-currency economic pact that directly challenges the U.S. dollar's dominance in global energy and commodity trade. This is no longer theoretical, it's active and already influencing how world powers trade oil, gas, minerals, and carbon credits without using the U.S. dollar. For decades, America's greatest unseen strength wasn't its military or tech giants, it was the dollar. Through the petrodollar system, any country buying oil had to convert its currency into U.S. dollars first. This kept American debt attractive, the dollar strong, and U.S. influence virtually untouchable. But Carney's pact, backed quietly by financial players in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East including Germany and Singapore, moves away from dollar dependency. They're offering energy deals and financial instruments in other currencies, including the Canadian dollar and Chinese yuan. Sources say Carney has been planning this shift for years, bringing together climate-conscious leaders, innovators, and central bankers disillusioned by America's economic instability. This strategic unveiling comes just as Trump prepares for a 2025 campaign centered on revitalizing U.S. energy dominance. His advisors are reportedly scrambling behind closed doors, furious at the prospect of the U.S. being locked out of its own traditional sphere of financial power. On social media, Trump has lashed out, calling it a globalist plot and accusing foreign powers of sabotaging the dollar. But insiders admit he recognizes this threat as very real and markets are starting to reflect it. Early data shows key nations settling oil trades without U.S. reserves. This reduces demand for the dollar, threatens the U.S. Treasury's borrowing power, and weakens the long-held ability of America to borrow and print freely. If this shift continues, the U.S. could face inflation shocks, a weaker dollar, and diminishing influence over institutions like the IMF and World Bank, long instruments of American soft power. It may also encourage nations, particularly from the BRICS bloc or resource-rich African states, to detach from U.S.-centered financial systems altogether. Trump's inner circle is reportedly in crisis mode, racing to create an emergency response strategy involving tariffs, sanctions, and energy deals aimed at halting Carney's momentum. But many analysts believe it's too late. This isn't just about switching currencies, it's an ideological pivot. Carney's framework blends financial independence with climate responsibility, offering incentives for countries transitioning to clean energy, and penalizing those that stick with fossil fuels. It's not designed to punish the U.S. directly, but rather to give the world a viable alternative, one without Washington's conditions. For decades, smaller nations have operated under a system where they traded, borrowed, and repaid in dollars under rules they couldn't control. Carney's new model breaks that chain. With green-aligned credit tools and multi-currency trade options, it gives nations a choice they've never truly had before. This shift isn't just economic, it's political. It's an escape route from the old financial hierarchy, and countries from Africa to Southeast Asia to South America are taking notice. Trump's countermeasures, sanctions, tariffs, fast-track deals might win over a few partners temporarily, but experts say aggressive tactics could backfire, pushing more nations toward Carney's model. You can pressure a government, block a pipeline, even sanction a nation, but you can't sanction an idea. What Carney is building isn't a rival economy, it's a new system, where power is measured not just in GDP or military strength, but in environmental credibility. The doctrine underpinning this new order, the so-called Carney Doctrine, is being rapidly formalized. It proposes that financial reward should go to nations that adopt clean energy practices and invest in sustainable infrastructure. Countries sticking with carbon-heavy industries face penalties through mechanisms like border carbon adjustments, climate-based tariffs on goods from nations that don't meet environmental benchmarks. The EU is moving fast to codify this doctrine, making it legally binding across all 27 member states. This could soon make it financially unfeasible for carbon-intensive goods, like oil from Texas or Chinese coal-based aluminum, to enter the European market without penalties. Asia is watching closely. Japan is reportedly considering joining Carney's trade bloc, recognizing the benefit of moving away from dollar-based energy transactions. South Korea is exploring similar moves, though cautiously, balancing financial independence with their security ties to the U.S. This shift isn't anti-American, but it does represent a break from U.S.-centric financial rule. The divide is subtle, but significant nations still value U.S. partnerships but no longer want to be financially dominated by Washington. The U.S. is still a major economic force, but its long-standing financial dominance rooted in the dollar, Wall Street, and global trade rules is now being quietly challenged. Instead of war or protest, this shift comes through a strategic economic realignment. For Donald Trump, who built his political brand on deal-making and restoring American strength, this disruption comes at a critical moment. But Carney isn't playing by those old rules, he's changing the entire system. There are no loud summits or public showdowns, just silent, sweeping changes in trade deals, currencies, and global alliances focused on climate and sustainability. This quiet revolution suggests that future power won't come from military might, but from clean, trusted financial systems. If this shift continues, historians may remember it as a turning point, not a fall, but a transition to a new world order where the U.S. no longer writes the rules alone. Carney's doctrine is now shaping law and policy, and for the first time in modern history, America may have to follow rather than lead. As Trump gears up to re-enter global politics, he's facing not just a rival, but a rising financial era being built far from Washington.